following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, a.k.a. the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua. Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine and I am your host. Thank you for joining us. As every week, Exit Team is a show that brings people who have real life sufferings with addiction, trauma. We bring them on the show to share their experiences with you. We also bring people on the show who have resources available to offer education, prevention, and of course, hope. As always, I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Jessie.
Hello.
And we have a really exciting show for today, and I'm really excited for it because we have Chucky Rosa here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're here.
Excited to be here.
I have known of Chucky for quite a few years now, so I have been trying to find my way to recovery for quite some time before I made my way to recovery. And Chucky was someone that people used to always tell me to reach out to. He has this foundation. They can help you get into sober living. So long before I ever met you, I had heard of you. And so people were always telling me to reach out to you. So it's really cool to have you here tonight because I know that you touch a lot of lives. And also, I met you, I don't even think you remember this, and I just remember this. I actually met you at a huge fundraiser back in 2016, and you gave me dog tags.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just remember that right now.
All right.
So, you're Jessie's guest. Take it away, Jessie.
So, obviously Chucky does a lot for the community. And how I know Chucky is when I was on drug court.
You were what?
What? So I was on drug court and I had to do lots of community service, believe it or not. And I always did it with Chucky. And we kind of just had an instant, connection, and we've kept in touch. He was a great role model to me.
Thank you.
Are you the reason she's the way she is?
No. I was pretty tough on her. She's done really well. I'm really proud of her, actually. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
But yeah, we've kept in touch, and it's been an inspiration. So here we are.
Well, thank
Chucky,
you.
you want to tell us a little bit about how
Sure.
you got into your foundation?
Sure.
What brought you into what you do?
Yeah. Well, I ran a wire factory for most of my life, for almost 27 years. I'm the father of 6. I only have 4 children now because I lost my 2 oldest sons, Dominic and Vincent, to accidental drug overdoses. I almost lost a 3rd son out of 6, but he's been clean and sober for over 10 years now. He, if anybody follows the fights, he's a fighter as well. He is in the UFC.
Wow.
And he's doing well, and I'm just saying that because it just gives people some hope. He was going down that same path as my other 2 sons, but he found his recovery. He had to relocate, and that maybe we could talk about that. That's what worked for him. Couldn't seem to manage it around here. But I left my job after 27 years. I moved up to New Hampshire with my...
Where are you from, Chucky?
I lived in Arlington. Brought my kids up mostly in Wilmington and Peabody, Mass. I left them in Peabody and moved up to Seabrook with Charles to try to get him through high school. And I thought there'd be less drugs and alcohol up here, but he told me after 2 days that pretty much it was the same here, because we were uneducated. My kids were uneducated, young adults, and I was an uneducated parent. I thought it was a phase they was going through that was going to pass. The older 2, Dominic and Vincent, and never did. And when Charles was getting into it, I was baffled that, you just buried your 2 heroes. What I didn't know. I really didn't know. I said, but he went from being halfway down the pole. He's the boss when I'm not around, and he, didn't know how to handle it, and that whole self-medicating thing, but he graduated high school, and after several failed attempts in recovery and a little bit of jail time, he found recovery in Florida, and I was asked to speak at a school probably 15 years ago at the Seabrook Middle School, I think it was, and one of the teachers knew me and asked if I would be willing to tell the students what happened with my boys, and I'm like, I never did any public speaking, and I still don't, but I said, I was actually, I don't let much bother me, but I was actually nervous about it. I'm like, geez, what am I going to say? And but it kind of turned into, she had a friend at Timberlane High School, and I've been there for about a dozen years. I speak to the freshman class. In fact, I'm going there next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And so I do, it's not a lecture, it's basically questions and answers. We show a little video. I talk for a few minutes to spur some questions, and I tell them that nobody's going to get anything out of this unless you ask questions. I'm not a licensed clinician. I'm not going to try to scare you into making good choices. I'm here to try to help you on your journey. And I basically tell them, I'm here as much for myself as I am for you, and so forth and so on. And I tell them, if you haven't started, don't. And if you have, you get it together before it's too late, because you will have a problem with it someday. You might not end up on the other side of the graph like my boys. They paid the ultimate price, but might be something as minor as saying something hurtful to somebody that you didn't mean to at a get-together or something. So we talk very candidly about that. And after several presentations, they say no matter how strong your message is, it wears off. And I said, what can I do to make them remember? So I came up with an idea. I gave them a dog tag, and it's a picture of a fighter, and it says help knock out substance abuse. And then I got some that I had in this made in this shape of the state of New Hampshire that say, instead of live free or die, they say live clean or die. And if the students, young adults, want to make a pledge to make good choices, they line up. I don't just put them in a bin. I give them an opportunity to take one. They got to look at me and tell me they're going to make good choices. And I see people pretty much every day. I actually saw a cop last night at the election, the voting thing, from Peabody. He says, you came to my school 6 years ago, and I still have your dog, Yeah, it happens a lot. And I'm just saying that it's, I tell them that don't take one if you're not going to honor it. I said, I respect you more if you say, hey, you know what, I'm not ready or something. But I'd like to think, I hope that it's made an impact. We've given away close to 100,000 of those. So that's the presentations. And then, like Jesse said, I supervise community service for people that need hours. Try to be a good mentor. I'm not always. I'm a little bit of a hothead sometimes. But I think Jesse, when
Is it true?
It's so true.
Yeah.
You know what though?
Sometimes you need it.
It's amazing because you see that like people aren't perfect, and you don't have to live some perfect existence to be in recovery. You know what I mean? That like you're still gonna have problems, and you're still gonna get angry, and you not deal with things the right way. And Chucky's just real, and that's what's cool about him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we do like we have a small industrial kitchen. We do cooking for like the community table. We feed people that can't get a meal. We so we teach them how to shop and
You do
to
a
cook.
lot.
Yeah,
I had no
he
idea you
does
did all
he does
this.
a lot.
Well, it's just we do that, and sometimes we'll maybe do a self-defense class. I'm certified to teach self-defense, so it's kind of like a self-help thing. And the third thing I do is we scholarship people that if they do a program like a 28-day program, and they don't want to go back to the same toxic environment, if they've exhausted all their resources and they want to get into sober living where they're fighting the same fight everybody else is, they have to do an interview and meet some criteria. There's a protocol, and if they do, we help fund them into getting into. We have a lot of deals with sober living houses in the state of New Hampshire, and we everybody's worth $150 or $200, and people say, well, what does that pay for? I said, it doesn't pay for anything. It pays for you to it gets them in the door, then the journey becomes theirs. And but some pretty powerful stuff happens. We spent like $60-something thousand last year on scholarships, but we get letters like pretty much every day that like girls get their kids back. They'll say, thanks for the scholarship. I lost my kids after I overdosed 3 times. The state took my kids, but I just got I've been in the butterfly house for this many months. The state gave me my kids back. I got 9 months sobriety. I got God back in my life. And so it's the $200. Everybody's worth more than that. It's $2 million as far as that goes. But instead of keeping them locked up for $35,000 a year, or they end up, like I said, in the same toxic environment, if we think they're serious and they've done the work and their case manager gives us the blessing that they're doing the right thing, and I ask them some pretty pointed personal questions, because sometimes they want to go to an easy place, and we think that if they've only been able to put together a couple of weeks and they've been using for 15 years and they want to go to kind of a loose place, I will say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not trying to manage their accountability, their recovery, but I'm not going to fund something that I think is going to fail. So then they'll find another place that's a little bit more structured, there's more accountability, and we try to get them on their way. So those are some of the things.
He also does, you do a support group?
Oh yeah, parent support group, the third Thursday. Been doing that for about a dozen years, yeah.
You just,
where do you do it?
It's at the Church of Christ in Seabrook, the third Thursday of every month at 6 o'clock, and it's.
Do you have a website with everything you do on it or anything like that?
Yeah, it's chuckysfight.com. It's just mostly, I think it's.
Does it talk about when your support group is?
I don't know if it's even on there.
We should get that on there.
Probably I should. Yeah.
I'm just thinking because I deal with a lot of parents, it would be good for them.
Third Thursday of the month at the Church of Christ, and it's very open. We have a protocol for everybody shares, and then you get the chance to tell the person what worked for you and what didn't, and not what your methodology is to why, because we'd be there for 3 days. Mm-hmm. But if you want further information at the end of the meeting, you can say, hey, why did you say that I should turn my son in? That's the last thing I would think of doing. There's a lot goes on there, and I'm telling you, it's not like TV. There's some real, every time you think you've seen it all or heard it all, there's some real situations, going on that are, I'm not fond of the saying you can't even make this crap up, but there's some really, things you say, geez, if you tell them this could happen, but if you don't, this is what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And but it's very open group, and it's helped a lot of people. Sometimes there's a few people there, sometimes there's a dozen, but everybody gets a chance to share, and it's good. It's worked out well for a lot of people. It's helped a lot of people.
We actually have a question from a viewer. So Jody says, losing one child can be devastating. What advice can you give a parent that has lost more than one to addiction?
I don't really have a quality answer, other than I'm probably not supposed to bring religion into it too much, but I'm going to just say, you got to keep your faith, because and I was cliche-ish, but you got to put one foot in front of the other every day. And I'm a fighter, but we all are in one way or another. We're all physically and or mentally tough and stubborn. And you have to use that stubbornness and toughness as a asset instead of a liability. And what I'm saying is, it's the fighter saying step up or step aside. Step up because you're here, because God wants you here and needs you here, and everybody out there has somebody that looks up to them and that loves them, and you really need to, I shouldn't say need to, it sounds like an order, encourage the person that lost more than one to put one foot in front of the other and try to turn something like that into something as positive as it can be. But it's a fist fight every day, but but it's a fist fight that you can win. It's the same thing, I believe, with the whole addiction. You know, there's a lot of different views on how to manage it and the disease model. I understand it all, but I believe at the end of the day, and this is what when I talk to the students, is that at the end of the day, it's a choice you make, you know, and it's something. No matter how your day went, you can at least say, hey, you know what, I didn't pop any pills today. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I live about 100 yards from a liquor store, and I go by it about a half a dozen times a day at least. So it's either on my left or my right a dozen times. And you know what? You know what I'm not doing today, Jasmine and Jesse? I'm not stopping at that effing store. It's not going to happen. But it's a choice. And what does it have to do with losing 2 kids? You know, you can crawl under the covers. And I mean, there's a lady up the street that lost her son. And she strung herself up. You know, she couldn't handle it. It's not that easy, but you just got to try to be strong and realize that there are people out there that need you. And you're here for a reason. Because when I lost my second son, I almost lost I did lose my faith for a minute. I call it a minute. It's just an expression. But I remember going to the Star of the Sea parish, and Father Morgan, he's dead now, old Father Morgan, and I went in there and I wanted to, I shouldn't say murder him, but I was really mad. He said, what the, you know, God took Dominic, now Vincent, you know, what gives? And I thought he was going to have some profound things to say. And he says, Chucky, let's say a prayer, you know, because I remember being back behind the rector, I think it's called in the church behind the thing there. And it was after Saturday after Mass. And, but he just said, you know, it's a lot of the stuff is in God's hands. So how you handle it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't have any real quality advice other than, you know, try to think about positive things and do good things and be good to yourself and others every day, and it'll get you through.
Go for it. I was just gonna say, it seems like you know, like losing your boys has given you this whole different direction of life, though, because you did run the factory for so long, and now I've heard about you for so many years before I met you, and so many like women and like sober houses that I work with and stuff, like people always talk about Chucky's fight. And I've had the opportunity to work with Jesse and we are on a panel of people that go into schools and speak, and we work with a mom who recently lost her son, and I don't know, I work with a lot of parents who have lost their children, but they have found ways to turn that pain into helping other people.
Good.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah.
So Chucky dips in the ocean
Yeah.
every day of the year.
Twice a day. Yeah.
Twice a day, even on the freezing days?
Yeah.
I did it once with you,
Yeah.
and it was like negative degrees out, and
Oh, was
literally,
it? Yeah.
and I literally took like my breath away, and I couldn't walk out of the water.
How'd you get out? I drag you out?
No, I walked out
Yeah,
eventually.
yeah.
But
Have you had to drag people out?
I like couldn't breathe. There was a whole bunch of us, and I think the only thing that kept me walking to the shore was like fear of judgment and my pride and ego.
Well, there you go.
Because everybody else was walking.
Yeah,
But, like
yeah.
I literally, by the time I got to my blanket, they were like, "Are you okay?" I was like,
Yeah.
I always go watch when he does Freezing for a Reason and support him, but I would never go in the water.
"You've never done it?"
No, I can't.
It's
So
We're gonna get you. We're gonna
So
get you.
we're going in.
Yeah.
So Chucky got designated as a recovery-friendly workplace. So one of the things that we do is we present the workplaces with certificates. So I was talking to my manager and I said, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if when we gave Chucky his certificate, we go do a dip with him?"
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking she was going to be like, "You're out of your mind. We're not doing that." She's like, "It's a great idea." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Damn it."
you're gonna have to do it soon because it's getting warmer.
We're
Yeah,
doing it on
yeah.
March 31st.
Okay.
It's gonna
Water's
be
still cold.
It's gonna be brutal.
Yeah. It takes a long time for the water to catch up to the air temperature, and vice versa.
Yeah, the water was more like, it was like more comforting to be in the water,
Yeah,
I thought, because the air was so cold.
Yeah.
Like not this past New Year's, but last year, it was so cold. I couldn't even be outside in my jacket without wanting to freeze to death, like literally. And they all went in the ocean. And I was like, this is like a health problem. Like there needs to be ambulances like
someone
on
needs
standby.
to put a stop
Like
to
this
this.
is like not right that they're doing this. And like, 60 people or something ran into the ocean. And I was like, oh my God.
It was a cold one, yeah.
It was so cold.
Yeah. Sometimes it's if it's like below the wind chill is like
It's like negative
below
17
10,
or
yeah,
something.
below 10, below 0, the salt water will freeze to you. And that's when you know it's cold. It usually happens like a half a dozen times.
So I recently heard that it's really, really good for your health.
Yeah.
Is that why you do it?
No, I do it because
your boys are
my
in the
son's ashes are in the ocean, and I bless myself every morning and go down there and say a prayer about, if I'm going to a school, that I make a difference at that school, or, pray for someone that might be struggling. And then usually in the afternoon, I actually went in again before I came here. I get a little bit cranky in the afternoon, so I go in and that's
I feel like that would make me a hell of a lot more.
Me
I gotta
too.
tell you that
no.
one day we jumped in the ocean in the morning. I was toast. I couldn't do anything after
Really?
that. I was
No
so
kidding.
exhausted.
Well, I was like scheduling the event. I was like, Chucky, the only time we can do it is at 4:30 because like I'm leaving right away and driving straight to my shower and like crawling in my bed after.
I was exhausted. I couldn't do anything after.
Yeah.
Like it had taken every ounce of energy in life I had to do that.
So I guess it makes your body do something and it gets all the toxins out of you.
Yeah. I've been hearing a lot about that. It's got a lot of health benefits for your immune system and stuff like that.
I can't believe you do it twice a
Some
day.
guy did it and they like injected him with like a bunch of like diseases like Ebola and something, and he fought it all off.
Really?
What?
I don't know. Someone was just telling me this the other day.
That sounds so insane.
I was like,
dangerous.
just put some, in me.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I can't even start with like a.
That might be an
common
exaggeration,
flu
but
virus.
It's good for your.
It's impressive. I can't believe you do it twice a day.
I didn't miss any days this winter. Every single day, I haven't missed a day in years. And
isn't that partly how you raise money? People donate.
If it's extremely cold, people say that guy's nuts, and they'll still send $50, $100 to the website. And then, like I said, we use the money to put people into treatment, and we do have the one Freezing for a Reason is a big one. We raise a few $1,000s there, and
he just donated $10,000 to SOS so we could buy a van so we can transport people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's for a good thing, so I'm honored to be able to do it.
So do you fight as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't fight professionally. My son Charles does, and my son Lucas, one of my younger sons, is down in Florida training to try to get into the UFC as well. I teach some self-defense to some people some local people. I have a small gym in my house with mats and everything, and if they want to continue, I send them to places that I have connections with that have a scheduled program, because I can't give them what they need. I've trained and I've sparred with some, professional, heavyweights, some tough customers, and I can hold my own. But I wanted to be a fighter, but I didn't have them, but I had children when I was 20. I was a single parent, like when I was 21 or 22 with two. Vincent was 6 months and Dominic was like a year and a half. So I'm not blaming any of it. Who knows what would have happened, but I do Bikram yoga every,
He does hot yoga.
Do the hot yoga and
Chucky, you're the man, Chucky.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You do it all.
No, I'm not there. I've never gotten that much better. But I think the point of the hot yoga is I got someone kind of challenged me to do that probably 10, 12 years ago, and I really, you talk about feeling out of place. And the reason I'm bringing this up on the show is that about stepping out of your comfort zone, because I went in the room and I see a bunch of, 90% of them beautiful, girls in black spandex tights, and a goon like me walks in there. I'm like, oh, do I feel out of place? But it's been really good for me. You have to stay present. I've gotten more flexible. It's good for your breathing. You have to pay attention to the, what they're saying, the 26 postures and
mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's been good, and just the message is to step out of your comfort zone. And
hot yoga for me was a game changer, and
good.
I realized that it taught me that I can do hard things, and if I can get through that yoga class and not die, that I am capable of doing hard things.
Okay, is hot yoga more challenging than regular yoga?
Hot yoga is like hell on earth.
because I find regular yoga challenging.
It's like 95 to 100 degrees in the
100%
room.
agree.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
But you get addicted to the heat. Like you get
Yeah.
addicted to it and you get used to it and then you don't sweat as much.
Mm.
And you know, it's really it's good for someone that's in early recovery that's trying to detox and get all the
Right.
toxins out.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what she says sometimes it's about trying to get comfortable, being uncomfortable. And that's like, back to, it's not about me, but, when the weather, my girlfriend says, oh, I look at her in the morning and she'll say, oh, she knows I want to know the weather. And she'll say, oh, it's 6 degrees, the wind chill's -10 or something. I'm like, oh, but you know what? It's something that I know I can do, and I make myself do it, and it makes me feel better. And the same thing with Bikram yoga. It's to me, it's nothing.
It's safe.
Huh?
It's not
How do you know?
safe.
How do you know it's safe to go in the water when it's that cold? Like, how do you know you're coming out?
It's honestly, it's easy for
Don't
me
your
right now.
feet like freeze?
No,
like,
not at all.
How do you like?
I'm fat. No, I'm used to it though too. It definitely makes a difference. You acclimate to it 100%.
I'm gonna get some water shoes.
Yeah.
Jess is gonna be like in a full diver suit.
Yeah.
Like,
I need to get like a wetsuit or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It's gonna be bad.
No, you'll be fine.
I'm dreading
and
it.
honestly, when you said that you didn't feel that good, most people, I tell them they're going to get the hungry horrors because your body's trying to get the heat and the energy back
Yeah.
that it lost. But it was probably so cold that day in your defense that it depleted your. I mean, it can just drain you.
I was like empty.
Yeah, it can sap your strength. It's the same thing as Bikram yoga, but the other way around. The heat can sap your strength, in the cold, the extreme cold, it can sap your strength.
Mhm.
But like I said, I'm used to it, and
It was like the middle of winter.
I remember.
It was so cold. Yeah.
Chucky, is there anything that you want to leave?
And also, I just want to say, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, your information's up on the
Yeah,
prompter,
yeah.
so people can get a hold of you.
Yeah. Anything I want to say is that, just that recovery is possible. It's all about choices and making good choices. And one of my favorite quotes, I like quotes. I think it's by Gandhi. It says, if you feel lost, find yourself in the service of others. There's always something nice to do for somebody every day. A lot of opportunities to, God gives us all something. Volunteer somewhere. Say something nice to somebody. Somebody's does something wrong in traffic, instead of giving them the middle finger, when that's probably what they're expecting, smile and wave at them, because it's really not that big of a deal. So that's what I got to say is, be good to yourself, be good to others, and always remember to be grateful, because we're pretty lucky, and make it a great rest of your week, and God bless all of you.
Thanks, Chucky.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in tonight. Like Chucky said, there is hope. So if you're struggling, reach out, and recovery is possible. Have a good night.
Amen. All right.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.